Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Your Spirit, Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant. Happy to have you with me. Hope you are doing fantastic. Hope your business is going well also, and that everything is turning out to be a success for you. It's only a matter of attuning to what Spirit gives you and working from that starting point. So, in looking at today's episode, I was really strongly drawn to the whole idea about the 2008 financial depression that happened. And so this hurt a lot of people, but in doing my research and looking more into it, the more I became passionate about finances and prosperity and more importantly, divine prosperity, I began to see that there were a lot of people who actually prospered and succeeded as this whole thing went about. Some people even expanded and experienced massive growth during this time. So the question that I had to ask myself, what was the difference between someone who wound up losing it all and someone who wound up thriving within a depression? And so I began to dive in deep. And this happened some time ago. And I'm just kind of giving you an example of not an example, but the real truth of what happened when I discovered all of these spiritual principles and also how they coincided with the depression back in 2008. And the one thing I found to always be true is that those people who put their faith and their trust in things that are outside them, right? Those who fail to put their trust in infinite intelligence, okay? Those who fail to put their trust within infinite intelligence. And, this means not only just God, but trusting yourself, because that's who you are. You are God. You are the all that is. You are the universe, right? So when you decide to trust that aspect of you and have faith within yourself, you're not putting it on external influences and outside elements in order for you to grow and to expand. Okay, so that's so important to know that, because in business, in all honesty and all truth, it's really not about what happens outside of us. It's about everything we do within that enables us to be stronger, more well-rounded, wiser, more connected, and more on point and ready to do whatever it is we need to do that's going to prosper not only us, but prosper our business and every single person connected to it. I tell you, the number one thing that killed so many businesses throughout that time is fear. I'm just going to be honest with you. I say this on every single podcast that I do. If you are a victim of fear, there is no way you can succeed, right? There is no way that you can succeed. And I want to paint a picture for you that is so relevant when it comes to fear. Fear is like being stuck in a room with a killer, okay? And all of a sudden, you somehow talk the killer into thinking, okay, they don't have to kill me. And then all of a sudden, you become friends, and you guys are getting to know each other, and you're getting comfortable with it, and you feel like it's not a problem anymore. And then all of a sudden, that killer has another weapon, and he slices your throat. If you don't know, I'm a big horror fan on a spiritual podcast. But that's kind of what it is, and I've watched it more times than I want to see. I've watched it take over people's lives, right? I mean, just absolutely ransacked everything that they built, because part of it was built on fear, and fear is not a stable foundation. Fear is not something that's going to ever sustain anything that you have. Being an entrepreneur is about having faith, right? Because there will be times where all of a sudden everything tangible, and what I mean by tangible, the stuff that you can touch and you can feel, right? There'll be times where all that kind of goes away and all you have is your ability to trust in yourself, that is infinite intelligence, that is a divine power, right? And so if you're not there yet, being an entrepreneur becomes a very difficult thing to embark upon. And so, I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and they say, you know what, I really want to be an entrepreneur. I think I'm ready for it. I think I'm ready to, do this thing on my own. I'm tired of dealing with my boss and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, how strong is your faith? How strong is your faith in the very power of the universe, the source that you cannot see, but you can feel and you can see the effects of it, almost like electricity? How strong is that? Because if it's strong, you got what it takes. If there's some kinks in that armor, dive deeper. Dive deeper into that. And so I'm going to give you something here that we're going to discuss in the class. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention that. Class coming up, seminar, Your Spirit, Your Business, the very first one, taught by myself and my wife, CSL Fort Lauderdale, 4849 North Dixie, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on Wednesday, 12 o'clock, 12 noon. Come and join us. We'll be happy to have you. But I had to just throw that in there. What I want you to know is that in that group, I'm going to talk about the number one thing that all entrepreneurs must possess. And it's kind of two-sided. Okay? It's kind of two-sided in a way, because the first part of it is you always have to be consistently growing, right? If you're consistently growing within yourself, your business is going to consistently grow. If you're staying the same, your business is going to stay the same. It never fails. The business is just a reflection of what you have within. Okay? The business will just be a reflection of what you have within. So the other half of that is faith. Complete and utter faith. So I'll give you a story. I was 2011. I had just finished up doing a bunch of acting work and some stunt work in New Orleans, but I felt like there was something so very strong drawing me to Los Angeles. And sometimes faith can seem borderline crazy, depending on who you talk to, right? And so, in understanding that, you don't feel so bad about yourself when you talk to people who actually went through it. But anywho, I had just finished up doing a bunch of stuff. I was still waiting on payments for some of the jobs that I had done. And all of a sudden, it was like a lightning rod. Spirit said it's time to move. It was May 16th. Sorry, not May 16th. It was a little bit before that, but it told me the date to leave was May 16th. And I heard it so clearly that I literally packed up all my stuff, got rid of what I need to get rid of in a matter of days, said my goodbyes, and I was on the road. So the reason I did this is because I felt a magnetic pull so strong pulling me towards Los Angeles from New Orleans. Now, let me tell you about my situation, because in no means was it optimal. I wasn't riding on a chariot to Los Angeles under any stretch. I had my truck. I was about 7 or 8 years old, which was still in good shape because I did whatever I needed to take care of it. I had about $300 in my account, and my aunt offered for me to come and sleep on her couch until I got on my feet. So, to the ordinary person, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I guess the less eccentric person, that would have been a deal breaker. But to me, I knew that there was something stronger pulling me to this place, no matter what the physical looked like. And I mean, it was some serious heartache, no doubt about it. It definitely was. There was something stronger pulling me there. So what did I do? I cast aside my doubts, my fears, the idea that I had never really known anything other than Louisiana, and I went for it. And to say that I got there and everything just started working out would be an absolute lie, because it did not. As a matter of fact, things got worse, not worst, before they actually got better. Okay? Things got worse before they actually got better. You run out of money. You can't find a job. Funny thing is, I booked a job like literally 2 days after I got there, working on a music video with LL Cool J. Come to find out, he had become the victim of identity theft and fraud. And he canceled the entire production. So all of a sudden, here I am getting ready to go feel like I'm about to, I'm making it. I'm in LA. I'm already getting started with work in the casting, or the producer on it has somebody call me up, or PA or something like that. The whole thing has been canceled. We can't do it. Something happened with the funds. Done deal. I'm like, oh, you gotta be shitting me, man. So then one thing after another from there began to unfold, to the point where I found myself crying my eyes out, lying on my aunt's couch, trying to figure out how everything was going to work out. And you know what? I think about that time right now, almost 10 years later, and I just become extremely grateful for it, because I feel that it was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, character builders next to Hurricane Katrina in my life, to allow me to really look within and see what I had. And I had a lot of that early on in my life. And so I just look back on that, and it really, really allows me to see who Sean Robert Grant was at that time as a spiritual being having a human experience. I remember crying my eyes out, talking to my mom. And my mom, she was, God bless her heart, but she wanted me to come back home because I made her life better. That was my whole thing. That's what I did. I helped her out. So she was ready. So she even went as far as offering me cash to come home. Can you blame her? And I really thought about it. I went to sleep. And the last thing I remember is just setting the timer on sleep, because this was back in the day when I used to watch TV until I just passed out. And I was watching Criminal Minds, and I put the timer on sleep. I woke up the next day, and I felt so much lighter. And this usually is the case after crying. I felt so much lighter. And, I text my mom. I told her, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out. I think there's something here that I need to figure out. And sure enough, right then and there, that was 2.5 months after the fact I had moved there, that all of a sudden things just began to come together. And I got my first opportunity as an entrepreneur in fitness, training at one of the most exclusive, exquisite fitness places in the world. And one thing led to another. And it was just blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing. But here is the point to that long story that I want to share with you. None of that would have happened if I didn't have the faith to trust that infinite intelligence was going to lead me down the greatest path filled with greatest joy, which is actually right when I met my wife, in addition to all that other great stuff happening. It would have never happened if I didn't have the faith and the resolve to trust that Spirit was leading me to my destiny, right? I sit and I think, well, what would have happened if I would have never just had the faith and the strength to make that move? As a matter of fact, I don't even want to think about it because my life would be completely different right now. But that just sort of comes down to the number one aspect of us being entrepreneurs, being successful, highly profitable, spiritual entrepreneurs is our ability to trust in those things we cannot see. You know, everything may feel right. Everything may feel on point, but it's just not showing physically yet. Keep trusting. Keep having faith, right? There's a great saying that says, you know, you can't trust what you see all the time physically because there's so much beneath the surface happening spiritually. And it's just waiting to pierce the veil, to manifest itself into your life. But see, that self-actualization thing, Spirit wants you to be as sharp as iron, as the Bible used to say. Iron sharpens iron. So much so that you will live and die by your faith, no matter what it is, right? You will live and die by your faith, and I promise you, Spirit will meet you halfway all the time. It will always work through you if you allow it to work through you, right? So when it comes to infinite intelligence, you know, we think of business. In all honesty, you really don't have to pay any mind to anything that does not match up to the alignment of that, right? You don't. You really don't. And if you do, and it doesn't serve you, you're often on a path to sabotage yourself. One of the hardest things to do as a spiritual entrepreneur is ignore people that have succeeded doing things in an older, more outdated, traditional fashion. It's one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur because here's the thing. They're already casting their doubts on you, telling you that you can't succeed this way when in actuality, I have infinite power within me. We all do. So I can succeed in whatever way Spirit decides to allow me to succeed. I just have to be open to it, right? It would blow your mind if I told you a lot of the stuff that I know about money, which I will because that's the whole point of this podcast. We're going to save it for another episode. Just having the idea that money is not what you think it is completely turns in a 360 or 180, whatever it is. It basically shifts you to a place where you work from a completely different level of consciousness. But that's a whole nother episode that we got ready for you down the road here with this new podcast, Your Spirit, Your Business. But yeah, all things aside, it's understanding infinite intelligence, which is basically your subconscious mind. If you take the time out to sit quietly, to connect, to fall into peace, to relax, and to meditate on the truth of what you really are, what your authentic self is, the divine power of infinite intelligence, it will give you everything that you need. You won't have to pick up another book. You won't have to look outside of yourself at any point in time. And if this sounds crazy, it's because you don't believe it yet. If it doesn't sound crazy, it means that, okay, you're ready to try it. If it sounds halfway crazy, then it means, okay, I'm on the fence. But keep this in mind. Every bit of wisdom used to write the story of your life, chapter by chapter, every bit of wisdom is locked within you. Now, that doesn't mean that Spirit won't share wisdom with us through books, but if we took the time to sit and to meditate and get that wisdom from ourselves, from Spirit's own expression of us, our success would absolutely be unlimited. Unlimited. Absolutely. And so I got one more thing for you, one more story for you, and I'm going to let you go here. So I just became plant-based not too long ago. And if you knew me some time ago, at least like 10 years or more, you would know that I would love to eat meat. I would love to eat seafood. I'd love to eat lots and lots of dairy and stuff like that. I mean, I'm from New Orleans. Come on, man. Cut me a break. But anywho, I got to this place where in my heart, which is basically my connection to Spirit, I knew that it was time for me to give up because I was a pescatarian for about 3 years before I became, so started out eating meat, gave up meat, was a pescatarian for 3 years, and then earlier this year, I just became plant-based. And so Spirit was kind of nudging me. And it drove the point home so strongly to the point where I'm sitting down watching this documentary on Netflix called Game Changers. And I see what meat and what fish does to all of our bloods, to each and every one of us, what it does to our bloodstream. And when I tell you, I saw that, and literally, once again, that spiritual lightning rod just struck me like, holy shit, are you serious? And in seeing that, I knew that I had to give it up. As much as I liked it, as much as I enjoyed it, I had to give it up because if I didn't, I was going to suffer for it later on. So I gave it up. All of a sudden, I have way more energy. I had a lot of energy when I was a pescatarian, a lot of energy. It felt like it was multiplied 100 times. More creativity. Manifested recently $20,000. Just out of the blue. Not out of the blue, but out of the consciousness, right? Cooking-wise, being more creative. All of a sudden, my podcast is gaining distribution all over the place, and I'm getting hundreds of downloads to my podcast weekly. And I sit here and I'm just like, wow, is all of this from plant-based? And then immediately right after, I can hear this voice said, no. It's because you listen to the guidance of Spirit. And I'm going to leave you with this, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if it's life, if it's business, if it's relationships. If you feel like you're stuck or you feel like even if you're not stuck, take the time to connect to what Spirit is feeding you. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I feel like I got to say that every episode because you have to know that it's broadcasting on that level to you and to everyone else who's willing and receptive to take it in. And that's all you have to do is take it in and use the information once you get it. And I promise you, everything will not only succeed, but it will work out. And most importantly to me, you will be fulfilled. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Episode 3 in the books. We'll talk soon. Take care.